Welcome to Alog Radio, the virtual radio station for all the people, entertaining you with facts, statistics and stories from around the world. So sit back and prepare for the information that will entertain you, and enjoy. It's the 25th of February 2017, and if you know from earlier shows, I had a flu earlier in the week, and all the coughing has bruised my voice box, so my voice is still a little bit rough. And by some coincidence, I came across a publication that's rough to do with disease, and it was from the Jehovah's Witnesses Awake. They just gave it to me on the street, and it's about how to protect yourself from diseases. And that's it's amazing how everything's connected, because I had a microbe attacking my body, a microscopic thing. It's a virus, so it wasn't a living thing. It was a particle that replicates. And then they published this thing about how to protect yourself from diseases, and it's got some other interesting information. So let's have a look at what it has to say. It's got 5 ways to protect yourself from disease. And it says, according to the Awake magazine, harmful organisms can march straight into the body by way of contaminated water. So number 1 is water. So your defense against water is to protect your water supply from contamination. If you know what your water supply is contaminated or suspected that it is, you can treat the water at home to make it safe. Store portable water in a closed vessel and distance it hygienically with clean ladle or through a tap. Never put your hands into clean water supply. If possible, you should try to live in a community that properly disposes of human waste so that it does not contaminate the water supply. That's useful information, I guess. Number 2 is food. I'm sure that's a very big one. I'm sure everyone's had some kind of salmonella or some kind of dysentery or some kind of infection from food. So number 2, it says harmful organisms can be present in your food, and it says your defense is contaminated food may look fresh and nutritious, so get the habit of thoroughly washing all fruits and vegetables. Ensure that food utensils, kitchen services and your hands are clean when preparing or serving food. Some foods require cooking at a certain temperature in order to destroy dangerous microbes. Beware of food that is discoloured or has an unpleasant odour or taste. That's common sense, I guess. I remember reading somewhere that very often you get salmonella from lettuce more than anything else, and the reason is because you can't really cook lettuce. It would disintegrate into nothing, into a paste, or you'd have to drink it as a soup, and it wouldn't taste very nice if you cooked it. So you have to eat it raw, and because you have to eat it raw, that means that you risk infecting yourself if there's anything on the surface of the plant. Whereas with meat or any other, like pasta, you have to cook it, and the heating of the food kills all the microbes that are inside it. So that's an interesting one. Number 3 is insects. Some insects can infect you with harmful microorganisms that live inside them. Your defense is to limit the contact with disease-carrying insects by staying indoors when they are active, by wearing protective clothing such as long sleeves and long trousers. Sleep under treated insect nets and use personal insect repellent. Eliminate containers or stagnant water where mosquitoes could breed. That's a good point, actually. You know, mosquitoes have actually killed more people than all the wars combined. So in World War II, the biggest killer of people on Earth is not the war, it was insects. Giving people malaria and giving people yellow fever and all the other diseases that it carries with it. So if you actually killed mosquitoes, or you found a way of keeping them away from people, you'd actually save more lives than you would if you prevented a war from happening. So that's an interesting point. I remember that fact. Number 4 is animals. Microbes that live in harmlessly inside the animal can threaten your health. If you're bitten or scratched by a pet or another animal, or exposed to feces, you could be at risk. Your defense: some people choose to keep their animals outside the house to minimize contact with them. Wash your hands after touching a domestic animal and avoid all contact with animals. If you are bitten or scratched, wash your wound thoroughly and seek a doctor's advice. It's amazing how people let their dog lick them after it's been licking its balls. They would lick its balls, they would lick its own bum, and then they'll lick your face. Yeah, you can actually train your dogs not to do that, apparently. I don't know how. Number 5 is people. Some germs can invade your body by riding on tiny droplets in someone's cough or sneeze. They can also spread through skin contact, such as hugging or shaking hands. Microorganisms from other people may lurk on such items as doorknobs, handrails, telephones, remote controls, or computer screens and keyboards. Your defense: do not share personal items such as razors, toothbrushes, or towels. Avoid contact with body fluids with animals or from other people, including blood products and derived from blood. And do not underestimate the benefits of washing your hands thoroughly and frequently. It is perhaps the most effective way you can stop the spread of infection. If possible, stay home when you're at risk. The US Centers for Disease Control Prevention recommends that you cough or sneeze into a tissue or a sleeve, but not into your hands. Yeah. It's funny though. I actually wonder, like, if everyone brought their own keyboard to work, if they're in the office, they had like Bluetooth keyboards that connected to the PCs. If they had to share computers, I wonder how much money that would save the government. Because when you're sick, then you're not paying taxes on that day. Some people don't get paid when they're sick. They don't get sick pay, and that's a loss of tax revenue. I wonder if the government actually paid for everyone to have their own keyboard, if they'd actually get the money back from tax revenues. You have to think about that. If the government actually gave people the things to prevent them getting sick, and if the money that they saved, like if the money they increased from people not getting sick was more than the money they gave out, then that would be like an investment, wouldn't it, really? Yeah. It's not just like people having their own keyboards. It'd be like things like hand wipes. Like in certain times of the year, give people hand wipes in their pockets, and it'll wipe their hands. It's like dry wipes, so they can clean their hands but after they pick something up. Or that soap in those tap things you press at the doctor's surgery, and they wash your hands, and they kill viruses. I don't know how, because viruses don't absorb anything. They must be like acidic, and they must like dissolve them or something. And here's an interesting story in the same magazine: the biases of the marine mussel. And there's a study found that marine mussels produce this material, these threads that anchors them to objects, and it's very thin, and people didn't understand how it successfully secured them to surfaces of rocks, whereas other similar living animals like clams and things, they had a really thick material that was really hard. This stuff resembles human hair almost, like but it's different because one end of the is stretchy by 80%, and the other one's 20% stiff. Is it? It's 80% stiff, and the other one's 20% soft. And that ratio is makes it is just enough so that it doesn't break. So this creature has found a way of making a material that's very thin, and it doesn't break, and it's just strong enough to hold it in place, and it's flexible enough that it doesn't break, even though it's very weak. It's a bit like spider's web, isn't it? They're not strong because they're strung together on their own, but they're strong because they can stretch and flex, and that's what gives them their strength. Anyway, that's all I have to say today. So, till next time, goodbye.